Hello, YouTube coin collectors and stackers. Today we're going to talk about fire survivor coins. I was at a coin show last night. My local coin club did their annual bourse, and a gentleman there had a bunch of coins, Morgan dollars and peace dollars, that had been saved or recovered after the 2025 Palisades fire in California. And this is one of them here. I purchased it from him last night. Thought it was very, very interesting. So we'll talk about this coin a little bit and what potentially could have happened to it and how it was found. And the second fire survivor coin is actually this one right here, this 1884 Carson City. And I have another video of the crack out on this and some of the restoration I did. But two very, very different coins, two very different stories. So let's start with the Carson City. The Carson City, when I bought it, it was in this holder here, and you can see I'll try to put it back together. It was all melted and warped and so forth. And actually, I think it went like this. Oh, it's hard to tell. It's so messed up. But it was all warped and melted. And the melted plastic and a bunch of smoke actually got onto the coin. And as you can see, this coin, and it's a very, very pretty coin, was originally a 64 plus. And I'm about to send it back in to get it reholdered. And we'll see if it's still gets there. We'll see if I get a straight grade, because I did have to do some restoration work on it. It was covered with smoke. It had smoke stains across the reverse under the eagle. It had melted plastic on the front of it. But I had this, and I was able to get a good price on it, because obviously, you know, when you buy something like this, the coin inside can be damaged. And as you can see, the coin isn't damaged. It's not bent. And what happened was this coin was in a fireproof safe. The temperatures, you know, outside of the safe got to be extremely hot. Depending upon what the safe is rated at, they can protect things, you know, protect air quotes up to, like, you know, say 1700 degrees Fahrenheit, or sometimes even more. Yet what's going on inside the safe, of course, the temperatures are heating up to the point where these plastic holders are melting and stripping onto the coin itself. And then we have a situation where we have a coin like this, and this again was in a stack of coins, and you can see the massive difference between these two coins in sort of the condition. So the Carson City itself had some smoke stains on it. It had a little bit of melted plastic on it, but overall emerged from the fire in the fireproof safe unscathed. The holder, however, was not so lucky, right? It melted and warped and did all these crazy things. But let's talk about this one. So the story behind this one is that there was a gentleman who, I'm going to zoom in just a little hair more. There was a gentleman who came to the Bay Cities Coin Club up in Los Angeles. They were going through the rubble of his house and found his fireproof safe. It was one of the things that was left. They pulled it out. They managed to get it open and pulled out his coin collection. Now, his coins were not slabbed. They were either stacked in there individually in tubes, I'm not sure. And they all had different sort of levels of staining and burns on them. Some of them were jet black. They looked like little charcoal discs. Others had crazy iridescent toning on them, reds, blues. This one I like because it almost looks like you can almost see the fire on it. It's got this crazy thing, and under certain light, let's see if I can get some of it here under the light. Under certain light, you can see there's lots of blues and purples and oranges and things as well on this coin. But the question becomes, okay, if it's in a fireproof safe, how could it get in a condition like this? And let's talk about silver and heat and silver and its reactivity. So as that safe is heating up in there and getting to be hundreds of degrees, potentially thousands of degrees, right? All sorts of stuff in that safe is catching on fire. Think about papers, and maybe had, you know, papers in there, paper money in there. There are potentially plastic shelves in there that are starting to melt. There's other types of holders and things that are starting to melt. And all that smoke is getting into the air as these coins are getting to be very, very hot themselves, probably far too hot to touch. And we have this situation where the silver heats up, becomes more reactive. The environment it's in is full of all sorts of chemicals that it can react with, whether that is, you know, hydrogen sulfide or carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, other types of noxious chemicals that are coming out of the plastics, hydrocarbons and things that are melting and getting onto the coin. I showed this to a friend of mine, and he asked me, do you think you can restore it? And I said, I have no intention of restoring this coin. Unlike this coin, which I had every intention of restoring if I could get it out of the holder, A, because sometimes these holders are really tough to crack when they're all melted like that, and B, if I thought I could do it in a way where I could resubmit it and get it reholdered for a straight grade. So no matter what I do to this coin, it's never going to restore like this one, right? This one is essentially a nice choice, knocking on gem kind of a coin, whereas this one, if I were to look at it, it may have been an AU, high AU, low MS coin to begin with, but the interesting provenance of this coin for me, the toning on it, especially if you look under a certain light, and the story behind it makes it, I think, well worth saving as a reminder of what can happen with these devastating fires or devastating natural disasters, and the types of things that survive and don't survive. So let's look at these again. This was a house fire, and the house fire was caught before it did too much damage. It did do damage, but the house didn't burn to the ground. But it did get in the vicinity of the safe and at least melt the holder, but they were able to get under control. As we all know from the news reports, the Palisades fire was quite a different affair, with an inferno just literally, burning house after house after house to the ground. Tesla's catching on fire and all of this crazy stuff. And then we have the result being this. And again, if I look at it, it almost looks like you can see just the image of the fire and the smoke in the coin itself, which is why I thought this was such a cool coin. And it goes to, to kind of the root of how do we store our coins? How do we protect them from such things? Should we add them to our insurance policies? All questions to contemplate when we start to look at and think about fire survivor coins and what might happen if our coins were caught in a similar situation. Well, thank you guys for watching. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I sincerely appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. Happy collecting.